Hey, greetings, class. Welcome to Psych B5, Behavioral Statistics, sometimes called Psych Stats. I'm going to do just a quick video here. I want to walk you through the Canvas page and walk through the syllabus so you get an idea about what the class is like. And um, yeah, and then we'll go from there. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you and I'll show you the Canvas page first, and then we'll get into the syllabus. Oh, check it out. Look at all these classes I'm teaching. Ooh, I'm a busy guy. Okay, so here's our class. I know it's a little early since our class doesn't start until October 17th, but I am kind of in the zone creating all my classes. So I wanted to create this class for us or get all the materials ready for our class as well. So here's what the class looks like when you sign in to Canvas and you're my what's it called inside BC. I don't do a whole lot of pages or anything fancy on my Canvas page. I used to, and students told me that they didn't like it, that they don't like it when their professors do that. They want to see everything all on one page. So I'm just taking constructive criticism from the students and kind of went back to bare bones. So it's not pretty, but it is all in one place. I guess we can say that. So the course looks like this. Basic navigation over here on the left. You can look at your assignments, your grades, and so on. There's a Zoom link, which I don't really Zoom through BC. I'll give you a link here instead. But here's how it works, right? We got the syllabus here. We got my online office hours, including the Zoom link. So you can just click in there anytime we have office hours, information about the textbook, and so on for course materials. There's quite a bit in here. There's tech support, for the publisher of the book if you need them. You probably won't, but just in case. There's the Renegade Online Hub. So if you need help with anything BC related, you can contact them. They can help you out. If you want information about viewing, replying, and how I grade discussions in the class, you can find that here. You can find how to view assignments, how you should submit assignments as well. But it's all pretty basic. I mean, you probably already know this stuff. You've been taking classes online before. Later on, we have two different options for you when it comes to analysis software for statistics, and you can use something called SPSS. You have to get that through AppStream, so it's like a third party kind of host that'll let you into BC to use SPSS, or you can use Excel with the appropriate add-in. You don't have to worry about that yet. We will get there soon. I also included a lot of student resources for you here on our Canvas page. So some of these are about BC itself, but some are just about, navigating Canvas in general, using Zoom. Um, you might need this for our class when it comes to document scanning. You can check that out if you have an Apple or an Android device. I got instructions for both there. Some students like to do that instead of just uploading their work through like a Word document, let's say. That's fine. I don't care how you get it to me. There's information for the tutoring center, for student services, the main page, for online support, counseling, advising, bookstore, disabled students program and services, veteran services, etc. Right? Not etc. That's everything I got. But if you think there should be something else added to this list, let me know, and I'll add it for my future students. But here's kind of what the class looks like if you want to see kind of what to expect as you walk through it. Now, our class is 8 weeks, so it's half a semester. So that means that you have the same amount of work to do, but you have only half the time to do it in. So it's going to feel a little bit accelerated. To be honest with you, if you think this is too fast, then this is not the class for you because there's no way to slow it down, right? It's 8 weeks. Um, so here's what to compensate for that, right? You really only have 3 big dates when you have assignments that are due, which is good and bad. Puts the responsibility on your shoulders that way to keep track of those big dates and to kind of work incrementally. So you have to show some personal responsibility to work through the class that way. If you hate the class and you just want to like suffer through it in less time, then hey, then it's only 8 weeks long. And the downside, then, if you love the class or don't know yet if you're going to like it or not, but if you say you end up liking the class a lot, then you might wish you had more time to slow it down. But here we all are, right? Okay, so chapter one, and this is a pretty typical of a module for the class. So this is the entire module. Everything underneath chapter one is the module, right? For chapter one. Some of the stuff, you can look at or not, but I like to put the learning objectives for this chapter here, there's a link to the ebook if you have the ebook. There's flashcards if you want to use those. There's a PowerPoint that I use in my video. And so video lecture, anything labeled a video lecture is me talking. If it just says video, it's not me. So video lecture, that's me going over chapter 1. Here's the PowerPoint I used. I broke this into 2 parts. So there's second half to chapter 1. And here's the PowerPoint I used in the second half of the video. So you can always have both, right? You'll have the slides that are in my video, and you'll have me walking you through them if you want to watch those videos, which I highly suggest that you watch the videos for this class. I mean, you're going to create a lot of trouble for yourself if you don't, but to be quite honest, because in this class, you're really doing like hands-on types of skills that you have to demonstrate for me. And you need someone to demonstrate them for you so you can learn to do them. That's what I do in the videos. So make sure you watch the videos. The other videos up here, like this one, it just says video, no lecture afterward. Well, that's not me talking. So I put these up here because I thought you might find them interesting and they might help you understand the concepts. So this one's about, this is a little application, improving human welfare, comparing research designs, understanding what reliability and validity mean, right? So you can hear this from someone else's mouth, not just mine, and that can be really helpful. So this is kind of typical of the materials for a chapter, right? You'll have the objectives, the book chapter, my video lectures, and then if there's supplemental videos, I'll post them there. And at the very end, you'll have the quiz and a discussion. So for each chapter, there's a quiz and a discussion. There's a couple exceptions there where there's no discussion, but for the most part, you'll have a quiz discussion every chapter. This one has a little extra just for practice. There's something called an independent dependent variable sheet that I made for you guys. There's, it's a Word document. Here are the answers. Here's me going over those answers if you want even further understanding of the material. So that's all chapter 1. And you see, this isn't even due until November 7th. And let's look at chapter 2. It's probably the same thing, right? Learning objectives, book, flashcards, video lectures, supplemental videos, quiz discussion, due November 7th. So everything from chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, I'm going to try to make you dizzy, 5 and 6. And then the first project and exam, this is all due on November 7th, right? So all of those materials are due. It's basically a quiz and a discussion per chapter. And then you have this project, which we'll go over later in class, and an exam all due on the 7th, right? So that's the first round of due dates. And there's 3 rounds. And then from there on out, it's chapters 7 through 11. Those are going to be due on the 28th of November. And then finally, chapters 12, 15, and 16 are due on December 9th. And that's when the class ends. So it's really fast. I think it's easy to see everything for the class all at once. I get it. I get it why students want that. They want it all on one screen. So there you are. There you can have it. Now let's go over the syllabus, and I'll explain a little bit more about the assignments and about the class in a little more detail. Oh, hey, by the way, I promise I'm not just going to read you my syllabus, but let me stop sharing for a sec. Hello, everyone. And let me share the syllabus page. There we go. All right. So we're all in the same place, right? It is the fall 2022, and you were in this 8-week class. I'd like to start off with this quote from Kurt Levine. He's considered one of the kind of fathers of social psychology. By the way, social psychology is where most of my research lies in that domain. Social psych is really the way that humans influence each other. Either it's how the individual can influence the group, how the group can influence the individual, how groups influence each other, right? It's all about influence. But what I liked about this quote from Kurt Levine is it really informs the way that I teach this class in particular. I mean, every class in psych, but especially stats. And, this is taken out of context, but Kurt Levine says, no research without action and no action without research. So the basic idea there is that should be a cyclical nature between science and life. I mean, that like the process of science and life. So it could be that you see a problem in your environment and you go, I think I have a solution for this, and you want to apply that solution. This quote would say, okay, hold on. First, let's see if that solution actually helps, right? It provides the results that you think it will. Because otherwise, let's not do it. It may do harm that you didn't intend, or just may do nothing at all. Then it was just a waste of time, right? So that's one part of it. And then you want to also, uh, as far as like research is concerned, what could inform your research is the actual problem that you see in society. So it's this kind of cyclical nature. I always think of the DARE program. That's a good example of violating this standard. So the DARE program, if some of you may have gone through this, right? The drug abuse resistance education. It's one of those things that like sounds like a great idea. Like you're like, I don't want kids to do like all these like super hard drugs. So, I'm all for drug abuse resistance education. This is one of the first programs that I was a part of when it came to analyzing, right, for its efficiency when I was right out of grad school. And basically, what we found was that there was no difference at all whether you went through the DARE program or not on your knowledge of drugs or whether or not you would use hard drugs of any kind. There were some cultural trends in which drugs became popular and which didn't, and it didn't matter at all if you went through the DARE program or not. Didn't seem to do anything at all. The only positive thing we found was that children felt more comfortable approaching a police officer when they needed assistance. That was it. And I guess that's a positive thing. But that's it. Nothing about drugs at all. And even the officers couldn't answer basic questions about the way drugs work in your body or even the behavioral effects. It was enlightening, a little disparaging. But Kurt Levine would say, "Did you test it first? Did you test this program first?" No, it wasn't, right? Until it was already implemented. And so then we poured all this money and time into this program that didn't do anything at all, right? So I like that type of lesson because I think, okay, when you're taking stats, a lot of people are nervous about it. And they think it's kind of a drag that they just have to take statistics at all. But I think, we live more and more in a time where, we want to do quantitative analysis for everything, when it comes to understanding people's political opinions, to where governments spend money, to where businesses, how they decide to market. They're all looking at analytics. And if you don't have some knowledge of analytics, then you're easily manipulated by people. So what I hope is that after you go through this class, I don't think you're going to be an expert in statistics after this class, but I do hope that you walk away with the knowledge of what questions to ask to protect yourself or to understand somebody else's argument. Or if you're making a persuasive argument using numbers, you can do that ethically, right? So there we go. That's kind of like the consumer approach to teaching the course. Of course, we're going to get into the weeds a little bit, and talk about it as a science, but you don't have to think about this as a math class. Statistics is kind of its own thing, right? You can use it in so many different ways. So anyway, we'll get into that. So basics. If I hadn't said so already, I'm Jordan Rude. I'm your professor. You can call me Jordan. You can call me Professor Rude. You can call me Mr. Rude. I like all those names and titles. This class is entirely online, right? It's called an asynchronous class. It means there's no mandatory meeting time whatsoever. I will have office hours, Wednesdays from 1 to 2 p.m., Thursdays from 6 to 7 p.m. Tried to get like an afternoon and an evening time in there. If those don't work for you, just let me know. We'll work something out. But we can meet online if you need to chat, need clarification about something, and that'll probably happen at some point. And that's what I'm here for. I'm happy to meet with you. But there's no time where you have to meet online. There's no class online. You will see my face a lot, right? If you watch the videos, you'll see me a lot. I won't see you unless you pop into office hours. So it's kind of it's a very one-sided relationship. I'm giving so much, but I don't get any, feedback from you unless you feel really motivated to do so. Okay, so we'll meet on Zoom if you need to. The best way to get a hold of me is through email. Yep, entirely online. Let's keep going. Okay, so for this class, I'm going to skip over the course philosophy and just go to these learning outcomes because they're really the same thing. So they're all supposed to start like this so it should say upon successful completion of the course, right? You can identify, explain levels of measurement and terminology used in stats. So of course, right, we're going to talk about language throughout this whole course. I think that's the trickiest part about this class. It's not the math. If you're worried about the math part of the course, that part's pretty easy. We don't do anything super complicated. We're not even going to be doing any algebra in here, right? Stats is a little more straightforward. Um, but the language can be tricky, right? So that takes some practice. So the terminology part definitely worthy of a learning outcome. Levels of measurement just means that we want to measure different things in the world, and not all the things we want to measure should be measured the same way, right? I think we would all agree with that. So we'll talk about levels of measurement. That's really coming up pretty quick, I think, in the second chapter. Okay, the second learning outcome is that you should be able to explain and effectively apply descriptive and inferential stats. So the first half of our class is really we'll look at descriptive stats, just as the name implies. It's like I want to describe something that's happening. Here are the numbers I can use to do that. Inferential means based on this data I have, I can infer this about the general population, right? So that's the second half of the class, and we'll get to that too. Don't worry. Last one. Students should be able to interpret statistical analyses based on behavioral and social research problems. You bet, right? So every time we go through a new type of, really, when we get to hypothesis testing, each chapter is like a different hypothesis test, and I'll present you with some type of problem that you can use this test um, as a tool, right, to help solve that problem. And then your project, you'll be doing something very similar to. So easy, we'll hit all those learning outcomes, no problem. Okay, the book for the class is called The Process of Statistical Analysis in Psychology. It's by McBride. And there's more stats books coming out that are pretty good. I would say this is like the first one I found that I thought, like, this is a good one. Um, all you need is the book as far as the text is concerned. If you can find a used one, go for it. You can also order it in the bookstore if you want to get a new one. And if you click on the link that's in Canvas for the book, then you can purchase an ebook version. Whatever works for you. I wanted this to be as affordable as possible. So if you're borrowing a book from somebody else who's already taken the class, please, by all means, use that book. You don't need any kind of access code, any bells and whistles, no workbooks, nothing like that, right? Just the textbook itself. The other thing you need for this class is we're going to get into doing statistical analyses using software on your computers, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. I want to give you a couple of options. The preferred option is something called SPSS. Don't buy it. You don't need to buy this program. You can access it for free through a tool called AppStream that we'll talk more about later. Or if you'd rather use Excel, you can use Excel as well. Just make sure that you can add in the analysis toolkit onto your Excel package. Um, the only problem I've ever found with that, with using Excel and this toolkit, is that if you're using like a Chromebook, you might not be able to download anything onto it to get that add in. Some students have told me that they couldn't do that. Some students seem to be able to do it okay. Um, but you have options there. We'll talk more about that once we get out of kind of the first 6 chapters or so. Okay, so this is my DSPS blurb. If you are somebody who has some type of accommodations through disabled students programs and services, then just let me know. If you've been through them before, you know the drill. You have to just send me the paperwork, and I'll file it away for you and make any accommodations that are necessary. If you think you need DSPS, go talk to them sooner rather than later. All right. All these things here I listed, academic support services, there's hyperlinks on the Canvas page, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, right? I already showed those to you on Canvas. I'm just throwing in my syllabus too to make my dean happy. But you can see that on Canvas. It's probably a better place for all that info. There's public safety info here. I encourage you to put public safety numbers in your phone just in case. Those are on the syllabus. Go grab those, put them in your phone. If you want to keep up with what's going on around BC, there's lots of construction, then you can click on a Better BC, and that'll it'll keep you filled in. You can also get the shuttle service through there. There's information about parking and so on. You probably get those emails like I do. Okay, course policy stuff. This is pretty basic. The first thing I want to point out is something called netiquette or network etiquette. It's just by how you communicate online with other people. And it's just basic. Same thing that, I would tell you if we were face to face. Just respect each other. You don't have to agree with everything everybody says, but you can disagree respectfully. Um, The other part about netiquette I want to bring up is when you're contacting me, make sure you put your name in your email. I know that sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't. Put your name in your email. Tell me what class you're in, and if you can remember, please put the CRN for the class too. So you guys would put 72064, or um, if you put like stats online October to December, something like that. Clue me in. If the faster I can find you, the faster I can get back to you and answer your question. Okay, moving on. So this class is a safe zone, and a safe zone just means that I don't think it means that I'm an ally for the LGBTQ plus community, and that means a couple things. Like one, you respect minority groups within our class. It goes for any minority group, but really, yeah, I want you to respect each other regardless, right, of your groups and non-group statuses, right? But it also means that if you're looking for somebody for information, you know, related to your gender, your sexual orientation, you're looking for community, you can reach out to me and I can steer you in the right direction, or I can be that person to listen to you as well. So that's what it means that this class is a safe zone. I guess ultimately, it's implied, but if you're a safe zone ally, it means you won't put up with anybody being a bully to people of the LGBTQ plus community. Just means, you won't put up with that shit. Okay. Um, okay, moving on. Late work policy stuff. So we only have these three, big due dates for our class. You have a lot of time between those due dates. So if you're like, I need extra time, I'd be like, you had a month, kind of thing. But if you tell me ahead of time, I'll probably, I'll work with you to, we'll take it situation by situation. But in general, my late policy works like this. So you know that like there's chapters 1 through 6, those are all due on November 7th. That includes the project number 1, exam number 1, right? All that's due November 7th. So um I'll accept, gosh, this doesn't really make any sense the way I worded this late work policy. I was gonna say I'll accept it. I'll accept it for half credit after that. We can just say that. If it's past the due date, I'll give you half credit for the work you turn in. Drop policy stuff. If November 7th, if you don't have your anything turned in to me by that date, I'm just going to drop you. And that's really for your benefit because would you rather have an F in the class or a W, right? So I don't want you to get an F just because you forgot to drop yourself. We get to that point and people haven't turned anything in. I'll send one email out to everybody, be like, hey, you're getting this email because you don't have any work turned in. If I don't hear back from you, by the end of tomorrow or whatever I put in the email, then I'm going to drop you from the class just so you're not surprised, right? But like I said, that's really for your benefit. You don't want to collect Fs on your transcripts. Okay, moving on. And the last thing here is the work in the class. So if you're wondering what kind of work am I going to ask of you, here we go, right? I showed you already really on Canvas, but if you want to break it down, you have 3 exams in the class that were 50 points each. And they're not really cumulative. The last exam has some cumulative questions, but we'll get to that. I'll make an announcement and video for you before we get to that point. But there's 3 exams, 50 points each. Each chapter has a quiz. They're 10 points each. Those quizzes are multiple choice, 1 point per question. There's a discussion or application question for each chapter. Those are sometimes a little different. Sometimes, I'm asking you to read something and comment on it. Other times, it's like analysis work you have to do, or interpretation of analysis work you have to do. But there's something for every chapter. And then when we get further in the class, there's a handful of these SPSL or SPSS or Excel assignments, and those are 10 points each as well. And then we'll get into that more as the class goes on. And the last thing is that there's a project for this class. So I think the best way to learn about stats is to actually put yourself into a project where you need stats as a tool, right, to answer questions that you have. So that means science mainly. If it's behavioral science, stats is our main form of mathematical analyses. So what you're going to do is I'm going to give you like a set of variables. And I've already collected data on all these variables from my classes in the past. But at first, I'm just going to give you the variables and what each one is, right? So it's something about people. Each variable is just like something we measured about people, right? So I have like this collection of things we measured, and you're going to say, "Hey, I think these two things that you measured, I think those two things are related." And so you're going to form a hypothesis based on that, and you back it up with some article you found in the scientific literature, and then I'll give you guys the data. Like, okay, here are your two hypotheses. Here's the data we collected from the past. Find the data from the two variables you chose. Run an analysis. Were you correct about your hypothesis? Why not? Right, and tell us all about it. So it's not like a killer project. You're going to do it in increments, but I think you'll find that enjoyable. My students in the past have liked this project. And that's kind of it for the whole class, right? I mean, it's going to go fast. It's going to feel like a lot of work because we only have 8 weeks. So here's what the schedule looks like, right? We have chapters 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6. This is Halloween and all this stuff will be up here. Chapter 6 and the project 1, exam 1. And that's all due the following Monday on November 7th, right? And that's kind of way to have the class set up so you can work ahead if you want. You can really, uh, I don't know. I don't suggest working ahead too much. I would say, if you can get through these 3 chapters in a week, that's plenty. That's plenty of work to have in a week, right? So maybe pace yourself. But if you wait till like November 6th to try to get all of this done, oh man, you're going to turn in some crappy work to me, right? I mean, it'll get graded, but I don't recommend you do that. And really try to use all the opportunities I'm giving you, right? Giving you the work ahead of time, giving you my office hours. I really want you to look through these first 3 chapters. And if you're confused on parts, come to my office hours. Tell me you're confused, right? Let's do it. Let's get into the weeds. I'll help you out. That's my job. Okay, and there we go. That's the entire class. Look how fast that is. 8 weeks and we're out of here. All right, so there's the walkthrough for the syllabus. Go ahead and look around on the Canvas page. We have a little time before class starts. And if you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to working with you all, and I will see you soon. Bye.